All right, everybody, we're back with the third installment of Rapid Rules Review, and today I'm going to do my best to describe some Illusionist stuff, and if I can make it through Spectra without an editing cut, I'll be pretty proud of myself. Franklin is freaking out because it's his water change day. He's not very happy, but that's okay. Moving on from that. Obviously, we got Prism back, and there's a lot of different things to talk about here. So we're going to talk about basically allies, spectral shields, and we're going to try to wrap it up with some Spectra conversation there. So let's talk about unpreventable damage. Vincent introduced some really easy to get unpreventable damage and spectral shields in Ward. And what happens here? Well, unfortunately, if you have unpreventable damage coming in, you will continue to pop spectral shields in Ward, trying to satisfy it. They will all fail, and then you'll still take the damage. So what happens if we have an unpreventable rune chant coming in and we have 272,000 spectral shields, each one of them would pop. Then if we had 4 angels with ward 4, each one of them would pop, and then the defending prism would take 1 point of damage. Now with unpreventable damage coming in the form of a rune chant, I want to know you can still arcane barrier it, but that doesn't stop you from taking the damage. But if for some reason you need to spend that pitch, you can still arcane barrier it. So keep that in mind. Unpreventable damage. We still sacrifice things trying to satisfy that damage prevention. Nothing unfortunately stops it, so it keeps going. One of the other questions that comes up occasionally at my local game store is Scour versus Spectral Shield. What's the order of that? Scour says destroy X target auras with a cost of 0, right? Then deal arcane damage. And that kind of answers your question right there, right? So I'm going to destroy 6 Spectral Shields. Then I'm going to deal arcane damage equal to the amount I destroyed, right? The 6 damage. So the spectral shields aren't there when the damage comes through, right? We're just going to resolve Scour from top to bottom. There's no opportunity for you to interrupt the resolution of that spell. So Scour blows up the spectral shields, then sends damage to face. All right, one of the things Illusionists are kind of known for is attacking you with non-traditional attacks, whether that's going to be allies or basically just a whole ton of allies. So how can we stop or mitigate that? And we have a lot of different options basically to close the combat chain early. As we learned in the Blizzard video, remember, Go Again is granted at basically the last part of a chain link. So if we can close the chain early, we can kind of negate the additional things happening. So one of the easiest ways to do that for Rangers is something like Hornet Sting, right? So the banning of Braveforge Bracers has brought around some additional arm equipment, right? Hornet Sting says, whenever Hornet Sting defends, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's an arrow, deal 1 damage to the attacking hero or ally. That's important, right? It has to say ally in order for this to work. Otherwise, put it on the bottom of your deck. So if you block an Ashwing with this, you deal 1 point of damage to the Ashwing, the combat chain closes. No Go Again. You've stopped the Dromai's attack. It doesn't matter if they have 5 more Ashwings to go, 20, right? You're able to stop it. We can do the same thing with wizard stuff, right? They attack with the Ashwing. Icelander plays out a frosting at instant speed, kills it on the layer step. We never make it to the attack. Keep it moving, right? Sigil of Suffering is another kind of cute way to get around that, right? That's a defense reaction. Deal 1 arcane damage to the attacking hero. So that doesn't work for the dragons, but what it can do is it can kill the figments with ward 4. So if Prism isn't able to stop that 1 point of arcane damage, the ward will pop, right? And if that happens to be the angel that's attacking, right, it'll immediately close that chain. So basically any way you can deal damage to pop for ward is a great way to stop the angels from coming through. And then any way you can deal damage directly to the ally is a great way to close the chain link early in that regard. Next, I think we need to talk about Phantasm. So it's important to go over that Phantasm is a trigger. And when that trigger resolves is when the combat chain is going to be closed. So if I attack with a Herald, you block it with a Command and Conquer, it will trigger, right, the Phantasm. And then when that trigger resolves, it's going to check to make sure there is still something with 6 or more strength blocking it in order to close the combat chain. That's important for cards like Celestial Reprimand or other things that can modify the power of the defending card. Now, it's important to note your defender is going to defend with all their cards, and then we move on. So if they defend with 1 card and use Celestial Reprimand it, they don't have an opportunity to pop it again. So if they want to be really sure it pops, they should theoretically block with like all 4 cards and a down and dirty from Arsenal, putting 5 poppers out there. But if they only put 1 out there, we trigger Phantasm, you lower the power of the defending card, right? Then when it goes ahead and resolve, the Phantasm trigger resolves, it doesn't see something with 6 or more power blocking it anymore. We continue on down the normal, right? Attack reaction, defense reaction. It's important to note in this situation too, that unless a card specifies that its text works when defending. It normally doesn't. There's a bunch of cards that have ways to give themselves additional power. But again, unless it says while defending, it's not going to work while defending. Right? Other important things here is because it is a trigger, things like Findle's Fighting Spirit still works. So if you have on defending triggers, those are still going to resolve even after the Phantasm trigger closes out the chain link. All right, so hopefully that makes sense, right? That's a real high-level overview of some ways to stop allies and a really high-level overview of Phantasm. So the last thing I want to take a crack at talking about is Spectra. All right, well, what is Spectra? So Spectra, and I apologize, I'm pulling up my notes here real quick. Spectra is a keyword found in many auras. Player may choose to attack an object with Spectra. Doing so will cause Spectra to trigger, closing the chain link, and removing the attack from the stack. Here are the key aspects of targeting a permanent with Spectra. And this is taken directly out of the Revisiting Monarch notes on the Flesh and Blood side, right? Spectra cards can be targeted by attacks, but not by effects that deal damage, right? We can't do wizard shenanigans to them. That's one of the reasons Icelander has a hard time with Prism. They don't have a life total, so dealing damage does absolutely nothing anyway, but you can't get there anyway. When Spectra triggers, the attack does not resolve. You aren't considered to have attacked, and on-attack effects do not trigger. That's important for things like E-Strike draw E-Strike draw a card, attacking an aura. You don't get that draw card, and you certainly don't get the go again. Rune Chants and other on-play abilities will trigger, right? Because we did play the attack. It just never became an attack. So the Rune Chants will go when you target the Spectra, right? Because it doesn't matter. That's going to happen before the combat chain's closed. You can play and resolve instants before that chain closes, but basically there's no way to stop the combat chain from closing in general. So just to recap, right? I can't Arcane Bolt or Frosting something with Spectra. I can attack it. It doesn't matter what the strength is that I'm attacking with. Bolton with a non-buffed Raiden can attack into a Spectra and it will close the combat chain. It doesn't care how much damage we're doing through it, right? It's going to consume the chain. You're never considered to have attacked, right? So you don't get to use things like Spellbound Creepers. It just immediately shuts it down and you basically get absolutely nothing from it. Spectra is kind of confusing to people, but it's really easy because it's all-encompassing. Basically anything triggering from an attack, you don't get. You only get things coming from the on-play. So hopefully this helps you out a little bit when you're playing into those filthy illusionists. Remember, try to pop things early. Double pop if you think they're going to have a way to stop it. If you can kill allies early, they won't complete the chain link. If they're attacking with something for ward, be sure to present damage to face if you can to possibly close that chain early. Keep in mind that Spectra swallows everything up. Attack it last if you can have a really long chain link. Get multiple action points before you go into it, because again, you're not going to get any of the attack triggers on it. Your card text isn't going to resolve. Spectra basically just eats everything around it, like the all-consuming Cthulhu. So hopefully you found this rules review helpful. Next week, we'll have another one on Friday. Let me know if there's anything you'd like me to cover. A little bit of a channel update. We're going to basically go to 3 videos a week for the next 6 weeks. I'm committing to that. There'll be rules review on Friday. There'll be a gameplay video on Wednesday. And there'll be a long form video on Monday. This coming Monday, we're going to talk about different kinds of Icelander decks. The following Monday, we're going to do an Illusionist introduction with a guest I'm pretty excited about. And then I hope to have a Rune Blade introduction the week after that with another guest. So again, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to give us a like, subscribe, all that other stuff I don't really understand. And until next time, everyone, cheers and happy gaming.